With Trump's election win, the legal cases against him will now change significantly. Most importantly, scheduled to be sentenced on November 26th in New York. But first, today we learned the special counsel Jack Smith will reportedly be winding down both federal cases against Trump, one in D.C. on the alleged plot to overturn the 2020 election, and the other the classified documents case in Florida, which was dismissed earlier this year but is on appeal. So it seems Trump will never get the pleasure of actually firing Jack Smith. Justice Department policy says, quote, the indictment or criminal prosecution of a sitting president would unconstitutionally undermine the capacity of the executive branch to perform its constitutionally assigned functions. So it seems the federal cases in Jack Smith's special counsel appointment will likely end before the start of Trump's term. But there are also the state cases. He's scheduled for sentencing on November 26th in New York in the falsified records case related to Stormy Daniels and the hush money, and in Georgia, DA Fani Willis, who's prosecuting Trump on efforts to overturn the election there, was just reelected last night. Now, in New York, if sentencing goes forward, of course, there's no chance he's going to be ordered to go to jail, and no matter what the sentence is, there's no chance he's going to jail. I think it's now clear all these prosecutions, fairly or unfairly, have worked in Trump's favor politically and probably played a part in getting him elected. How big, I don't know. But don't forget, there are also massive civil judgments against him in cases brought by E. Jean Carroll, who he was found to have sexually assaulted, and the case brought by New York State Attorney General Letitia James, who won a $454 million judgment against him. Trump has threatened to go after that case, also on appeal. Today, she joined New York Governor Kathy Hochul to announce she is not backing down.
If possible, we will work with his administration, but we will not compromise our values or our integrity or our principles. We've studied their platforms. We've identified certain possibilities, fact patterns. We've created contingency plans. This is not the time to be fearful, New York, but faithful and steadfast. We are guardians of the law, and we are prepared, my friends, to fight back.
All right. Well, joining me now, attorney Sarah Isgur, former spokesperson for the Department of Justice under President Trump, and ABC News contributor, host of the legal podcast Advisory Opinion. Sarah, good to see you. Let's start with the Manhattan case. There is a lot of reporting now that Trump's team wants to try to make sure the sentencing never even happens. What do you think?
Well, the judge has two options at this point. He can continue to announce a sentence and then suspend that until after Trump leaves office, or he can simply suspend the entire process until after Trump leaves office. The fact that he delayed sentencing until after the election, I think, tells us that he is more likely to say this entire process needs to now wait until after he leaves the presidency due to separation of powers concerns between states and the federal government. That he can't continue his appeals, for instance, while he's in the presidency, and so just push the entire thing off until 2028.
All right. And real quick, what about Georgia? I mean, that one inevitably gets pushed to 2028, 29, right?
That's right, yeah.
All right, let's talk about the Letitia James press conference and the civil cases. That case is on appeal, and actually the appellate judges seemed kind of receptive to some of the Trump team's arguments about that appeal. And he's also threatening to go after her. What do you make of all that?
So civil cases, of course, will be totally different. Those will continue while he's in the presidency. We have plenty of court cases from the Clinton era that say, you know, that's not really enough of a distraction, quote unquote, to prevent someone from executing their duties as president. So that will continue. I'm sure Donald Trump will not like it. In terms of then what Donald Trump can do to Letitia James, we'll see. I mean, I thought that press conference was pretty aggressive, maybe overly so. And she's sort of asking for this fight with a president who hasn't even taken office yet. It seems a little unwise.
But I'm trying to think of like he's claiming that she engaged in election interference, right? And he has suggested that he wants her tried for election interference. I mean, you know, even if he instructs his DOJ. We have a new Department of Justice where the president is directly instructing the Department of Justice on what to do and how to do it. And he says, go after her. I don't care. I still don't exactly see how that turns into anything.
Also, remember, there's a long list of people he says he wants to prosecute. It's going to be hard to tick through them all, even in 4 years. But you look back to 2016, and he was chanting, lock her up at every single rally about Hillary Clinton. He was president for 4 years. Hillary Clinton was never charged with anything. So you do have to separate Trump, the shock jock, the candidate, the campaigner, from Trump, the president.
That's actually one of the things we're going to talk about on tomorrow's show, because Politico put together a list today of his targets. And we're going to talk about whether he's
Am I on it?
You're not. Neither am I. It's apparently, I mean, Bill O'Reilly was on with Chris Cuomo earlier, sort of identifying, saying it's very high-level people. But it was justice-related people, and you did work in the Justice Department, but your name, from what I understand, is not on the list. Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen, and don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.